Hello everyone, am I audible and visible? Let me know, then we'll start. Am I audible and visible? I think so.
Hi everybody.
I think I'm audible. So let us start our today's topic. I'm myself Dr. Deepthi Karya. I'm MD PhD Physiology and your faculty for Physiology. Now, today we'll discuss about some properties of smooth muscle as well as we will discuss excitation, contraction, coupling in the smooth muscle. Fine. Now, before that, I would like to again remind you, if you wish to get soft copy of all my notes, you can download the application Vesalius and subscribe. And for hard copy, you can order on the Flipkart or Amazon, and you can get the physiology notes. Also, you can join my WhatsApp group. The number is 78638226668. Okay, or link is also given through link. Also, you can join our WhatsApp group. Link for the book, link for the application, all are given in my description box. Fine. Now, so today we'll start with today's class we will discuss about excitation, contraction, coupling in the smooth muscle, that is little bit different than skeletal muscle. We will discuss contraction process in the smooth muscle, and we will discuss some important characteristics of smooth muscle contraction. One, that is plasticity, and other, that is latch mechanism. Both are very important. Okay, so starting with first thing, that is excitation, contraction, coupling. All we are knowing that excitation, that is electrical events are followed by the contraction, mechanical event. Okay, so they are sequences of events by which excitation of the plasma membrane of the muscle that leads to formation of cross bridges and contraction of the muscle. Okay, here this is quite different than skeletal muscle. How? Because you can see here in skeletal muscle we have troponin. Okay, troponin and tropomyosin, mainly troponin, which is absent in the smooth muscle. Instead of that, we have another calcium binding protein, that is calmodulin, which plays an important role in the smooth muscle contraction. We will discuss in detail. Okay, so you can see here smooth muscles, they show asynchronous, or you can say continuous irregular contractions. These contractions are independent of nerve supply, and this is asynchronous, continuous, irregular contraction, that is inherent property of the smooth muscle. And why is it so? That is because of presence of calcium ions, okay, in the smooth muscle. How? We will discuss in detail. Now, what are steps of muscle contraction? You can see in the diagram, this is one of the very good diagram. You can also draw the same. You can see here first step, that is whenever impulse comes, nerve impulse comes, and whenever there is release of neurotransmitter acetylcholine, here either acetylcholine is released or some hormone is there. Okay, by any ways, either because of depolarization or neurotransmitter or hormone, you can say that mechanisms are different. Either maybe inositol triphosphate gets activated, ligand gated calcium channels open, any of the way there is increase in the calcium entry inside the smooth muscle cell. So first step is entry of calcium inside the smooth muscle cell. Now this calcium binds with the protein. As I told you, the protein is different than skeletal muscle. The protein is calmodulin. So there is formation of calcium calmodulin complex. Very important thing. Okay. Then what happens? Next step is when this calcium binds with the calmodulin, there is activation of calmodulin dependent light chain kinase. Name of this kinase, that is myosin light chain kinase. Okay, so I repeat, there is neurotransmitter or hormone or depolarization that causes entry of calcium. Calcium binds with the protein calmodulin. Calcium calmodulin complex activates myosin light chain kinase. Okay, now this enzyme, what is the action of this enzyme? It causes phosphorylation of myosin light chain. Myosin light chain, I think all of you are knowing that myosin has got light chain and heavy chain, and on the light chain that forms head. So phosphorylation of myosin head. Okay, and here because of phosphorylation there is increase in the activity of myosin ATPase, which is required for the degradation of ATP. Now this ATPase converts ATP into ADP and phosphate. Okay, so there is formation of actin, myosin, ADP and phosphate. Okay, and as now other steps are similar to skeletal muscle. There is release of ADP and the release of phosphate, and there is power stroke that results in movement of, you can see this is the head and this is the actin molecule. So actin molecules binds with the head and there is power stroke. So that results in sliding of the actin filaments over the myosin filament, and that results in muscle contraction. So last steps are similar. Only difference is here in these three steps. Okay, what are they? Calcium binds with the calmodulin. Calcium calmodulin complex is formed that causes increase in the myosin light chain kinase, causes phosphorylation of myosin light chain, and increase in the myosin ATPase, which degrades ATP, okay, into ADP and phosphate. Now what are the differences in the skeletal muscle? You can see here in skeletal muscle contraction, what happens, you can see here, number one, that is acetylcholine enters. As we have already discussed with skeletal muscle contraction, this acetylcholine, because of and another important thing, there is a wave of excitation that causes release of calcium ion. Now this calcium ions, they bind with the troponin C, and when calcium binds with the troponin C, troponin tropomyosin complexes are removed from the active sites of the actin molecule, and now these active sites of the actin molecules are free so that it can bind with the myosin head. Okay, and next is when myosin head binds with the actin, then there is hydrolysis, or sorry, there is degradation of ATP and it is converted into ADP and phosphate, and that provides energy for the power stroke. So these are the steps in skeletal muscle contraction. Okay, and smooth muscle contraction, we have discussed, these are the steps. This is just the revision. Calcium binds with the calmodulin, calcium calmodulin complex. It causes activation of myosin light chain kinase. Okay, and this myosin light chain kinase, when it gets activated, you can see here, that causes phosphorylation of myosin head, you can see here, and activation of ATPase that degrades ATP into ADP and phosphate. Fine, and that provides energy for the power stroke. Okay, so this is about your smooth muscle. Okay, now next is relaxation. How the smooth muscles, they get relaxed. For that, you can see now calcium ion concentration should be reduced. So now this calcium ions, they go back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So calcium ion concentration inside the cell decreases. Okay, that is first step. So you can see here, these are the steps of contraction. Calcium calmodulin complex that causes activation of myosin light chain kinase, okay, and phosphorylation. Now very important thing here is when calcium ion concentration decreases, okay, in spite of that, calcium concentration falls to the resting level of smooth muscle. Okay, but in that situation also, phosphorylation of myosin head cannot be reversed. So for reversal of or inactivation of myosin light chain kinase, we require another enzyme, that is phosphatase. Okay, so reversal of this, that is by the enzyme myosin phosphatase, that causes dephosphorylation. Here you can see this myosin light chain, which was phosphorylated, now it gets dephosphorylated by the enzyme phosphatase. Okay, and after that only cross bridges and this cycle it stops, and that results in relaxation. Okay, now another important thing is the time required for activation and relaxation. So for contraction, that is myosin light chain kinase activity, you can see here activation of myosin light chain kinase and inactivation. Okay, both they are slow. Okay, and this is the cause why skeletal muscle contractions are fast but smooth muscle contractions are slow. Okay, calcium pump operates slowly in the smooth muscle as compared to skeletal muscle, and therefore smooth muscle contractions, they are prolonged as compared to skeletal muscle contraction. Okay, very important thing here. Yeah. Now, smooth muscles, they show continuous, as I told you, irregular contractions. They are independent of the nerve supply. When the nerve supply is not there, in spite of that also, smooth muscles, they show contraction. Okay. And this continuous state of partial contraction, that is known as tonus. Okay. Or tone of the smooth muscle. This tone of the smooth muscle is myogenic. Hmm? That is because of muscle, in spite of, in absence of nerve fiber, also nerve supply. Okay, that is inherent property of the smooth muscle, and that is because of the calcium ions, they remain for a long period of time, and the phosphorylation, that remains for a long period of time. Okay, now, which is the characteristics of excitation contraction coupling of smooth muscle, how it differs from skeletal muscle. Number one, that is, this excitation contraction coupling is slow. Okay, this excitation, after excitation, contraction requires, you can see here, this is the spike potential. So after this spike, 200 milliseconds are required, and after 200 milliseconds of spike, this smooth muscle, they contract. Okay, and the peak of the contraction reaches after 500 milliseconds. Okay, so this excitation contraction coupling is slow process, and that is because of slow attachment and slow detachment of the cross bridges, means actin and myosin filament cross bridge formation, that is slow, and detachment is also slow. You can see here, these are all the steps we have discussed. Okay, now another very important property we are discussing, that is plasticity. What do you mean by plasticity? This is different than different than skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle. Now, what is plasticity? In skeletal muscle, we have Frank-Starling's law. Okay, more the initial length, more will be the force of contraction. That is not followed here. Okay, plasticity means smooth muscles, they can readjust its resting length. Means, suppose if the smooth muscles are passively stretched, initially pressure increases, tension increases, but if they are stretched for long period of time, then they gradually, their tension decreases, and sometimes their tension reaches to normal level. Why? Because the length of the smooth muscle gets readjusted. I'll show you the example. You can see here, this is the graph showing the, here is the volume. You can see, suppose we are talking about urinary bladder. Hmm? This is the volume and this is the pressure. So what happens initially when the volume increases, you can see here. Okay, anyways, when the volume increases in any smooth muscle, what happens initially, with increase in the volume, you can see pressure increases, but afterwards, because of the property of plasticity means now smooth muscles, they readjust to the resting length. Okay, so you can say that tension decreases, they are readjusted to that increased length. Okay, again volume increases, again pressure increases, then they are getting readjusted to their resting length. Okay, again volume increase. So this graph is not like straight line, that this is like zigzag pattern. Initially pressure increases, then it comes back to normal because of the property of plasticity. Smooth muscles, they readjust its resting length. Okay, fine. And another important thing here is the smooth muscles, they require less energy to sustain this contraction state. Sustain the contraction state. Okay, fine. Now another very important characteristic of smooth muscle, that is latch phenomena or latch mechanism. Now what is this latch mechanism here? This is the mechanism by which smooth muscle maintains prolonged tonic contraction. Okay, prolonged tonic contraction for hours. Okay, with less use of energy use. I repeat, latch mechanism here, smooth muscles, they maintain prolonged tonic contraction for hours with less use of energy required is less, but they maintain a state of sustained prolonged contraction, that is latch mechanism. Okay, here Why this latch mechanism is there? Because smooth muscles, they have prolonged delivery of calcium, and calcium ions are there in the sarcoplasm for a long period of time, so they maintain high tension without active contraction. Means they do not require always every time to get contracted, and it allows long term maintenance of the tone of the smooth muscle. Smooth muscle tone is maintained for a long period of time, okay, so that muscle generates active tension, and it resists to the passive length, okay, passive stretch. Now, maximum force of contraction in the smooth muscle, that is always greater than skeletal muscle, and here this is because of prolonged period of attachment. You can see here this myosin head gets attached to the actin molecule for a long period of time. Okay, as we have discussed that attachment and detachment, both the processes are slow. So this attachment, you can see that at rest, you can see myosin cannot bind with the actin, okay, because of absence of phosphorylation of myosin light chain kinase. But when myosin binds with the, when there is a calcium calmodulin complex, and when there is phosphorylation of myosin light chain kinase, now your myosin head binds with the actin, but this remains for a long period of time, okay, and this is important for the maintenance of tonic muscle contraction, and this is found in the visceral organs, like in the digestive tract, like in the urinary tract, also urinary bladder. So this is latch mechanism. I repeat, both the things are important. One, that is plasticity. What is plasticity? Smooth muscles, they can readjust to the with resting length with less energy utilization, and latch phenomena, that is prolonged tonic state of contraction for hours with less energy utilization, okay. Now, characteristic of excitation contraction coupling of the smooth muscle. What is the mechanism? You can see here, whenever there is strong activation of myosin light chain kinase, okay, that results in a cyclic frequency of myosin head and velocity of contraction, both are increased. Frequency, as the activation of the enzyme decreases, cyclic frequency decreases, but lower activation of the enzyme causes myosin head to remain attached to the actin for long and large period, that we have discussed with the latch mechanism, okay, fine. Now, another characteristic of excitation contraction coupling in the smooth muscle, that is marked shortening of the smooth muscle during contraction. Smooth muscle can contract. You can see here, when smooth muscles are contracting, their resting length decreases to third, okay, as compared to skeletal muscle. When skeletal muscle they contract, their resting length decreases one third. So this is also another important characteristic difference between smooth muscle and skeletal muscle contraction. It is important function in the hollow viscera, which allows the viscera to change its diameter, okay. Then energy requirement for the sustained contraction, as we have discussed, slow phosphorylation and slow dephosphorylation. So less ATPs, less energy is required. Okay, only one molecule of ATP is required for each cycle without affecting its duration. Okay. Now, how these smooth muscles are excited? Multi-unit smooth muscles are excited by nervous stimuli only, whereas single-unit smooth muscles, they are excited through nerves. Cholinergic neurotransmitter acetylcholine excites. Hormones also they excite through pacemakers, stretching, and the temperature also excites. Whereas inhibition of the smooth muscle, that is by adrenergic neurotransmitter epinephrine, adrenergic stimulation and adrenergic neurotransmitter epinephrine, and another is hormones also, they cause inhibition, like progesterone. When progesterone is there, it decreases the uterine muscle contraction because it acts on the pacemaker potential. That is important at the time of initial months of pregnancy, where progesterone decreases uterine contraction by inhibition of the smooth muscle. Okay, fine. So this is all about certain characteristics of smooth muscle. Okay, these are the questions may be asked from today's topic, that is excitation contraction coupling, steps of smooth muscle contraction, characteristic features of relaxation of smooth muscle, characteristic of excitation contraction couplings. You can write down slow excitation contraction coupling, latch mechanism, and you can write down plasticity. Okay, so this is all about today's class. Thank you so much. Again, I repeat, all my lectures are available in soft copy and hard copy. For soft copy, you have to download the application Vesalius and subscribe for the same, and for hard copy, you have to order on Flipkart or Amazon. All the links are given in the description box. Okay, so thank you so much. If you like my video, you can like it, you can share with all your friends, and you can subscribe my channel. Thank you so much, and you will get all the videos of physiology. I'm trying to complete the syllabus on this live